welcome. Welcome to, this is Lunchtime Vinyasa. So take a moment. We're gonna start seated. Get yourself settled in. Depending on what you've been up to, you might want to sit in a different way. I'm just a simple cross-legged position, but you can sit with your feet together or sit up on a pillow or something like that. And then close your eyes and tune into your breath. Just kind of mentally, it's like, okay, yeah, I've got a whole bunch of stuff on my agenda for later. I've got stuff kind of still sticking in there from earlier. I'm just gonna let it all go for now. Let myself have 30 minutes of little, in the middle of the day vacation. Just with the breath and the body. Just take a few more breaths, kind of feeling the inhale drop in and maybe hit the bottom of the pelvic floor, or you might even be able to feel that in your thighs or in your legs, or maybe even down to your toes. When you're ready, you can drop your chin, and we're just going to pause here and just make sure the spine gets a little taller. So we're not rolling forward, and then roll the head around the shoulders, just going back and forth. And I like to check in as I go and see, are there little spots that feel a little more tender? A little tighter. And so if I find a tight spot, like there's kind of one right here on the side of my neck, I might just pause with that for a moment. Give it a little extra love and attention. And keep going. Look for the next little spot. Do 2 or 3 more rounds. Back to the center, let the head kind of float itself up. And then I'm going to try to keep my chin level. I'm just going to look over one shoulder, come on back, look over the other shoulder. Kind of resist the urge to turn from the chest. And just go shoulder to shoulder. And again, I'm just noticing, is there any tenderness? For me, it's a little easier to turn my head to the left. It's a little bit, there's kind of a muscle here in this right shoulder that I can feel kind of change as I bring my head around to the right. So just kind of noticing what your little body quirks are today. Could be that that's all the time kind of quirk, you know, like you've got an injury. All right, so roll your shoulders around when you get back to the center. Oh, and sometimes it's just, you know, like you sleep on your side, funny, or something happens. You just have a quirk for that day or that moment. Go the other direction. One of the things I like about yoga is this opportunity to just kind of revisit all of these little spots in the body every day and keep track of them. All right, now what we're going to do is just hunch the shoulders up as high as you can. Like if you could touch your earlobe, do that. And then drop them. And do that a couple more times. So punch them up, punch them up, punch them up. Drop them. And then one more. Just squeeze and release. Okay. Okay. Let's do some circles for the wrists. Go the other direction with those circles. spread the fingers out really wide, and then you're just gonna take hold of one hand. So I'm gonna leave my thumb out of it and hold on to this part of the hand right where the bottom of my finger joint meets the little hand bones. And then stretch my thumb back. Sometimes, you know, too much of this. Your thumb needs some love. All right, drop your hand, get the top of the wrist. Oh, give it a little shake out. And then the opposite hand, so spread the fingers out. Take, you know, your hand where you want to grab it. Give it a little stretch. Oh, spread the thumb out, bring it back a little. Drop that guy. Stretch the front. Okay, give that a little rinse. Little circles, little circles, little circles. Spread out your fingers really big. Curl them in nice and tight. Spread them out really big. Curl them in nice and tight. Oh, one more time. Spread them out nice and big. Curl them in nice and tight. All right. So we're gonna come up to all fours. Hopefully the wrists feel nice now. We're gonna give the back some love, so rounding it. And this is really, like this upper part of my back loves doing this. So the part that I try to focus on is right there in the lower back. So I get a little bit more movement in those muscles. And then my lumbar spine like naturally wants to hang out there. So if I can get my shoulders to change as I do this, that feels really interesting and groovy. Take ourselves into a little stretch for the shoulder. So if you take your knees a little on the wider side, we're going to thread one arm underneath, let that shoulder rest. This hand can go up over your back. My preference is to kind of press myself slightly more into that shoulder so I can pull backwards. Oh. And get a little more stretch right under the shoulder blade. It's kind of like just pushing and moving some of the skin over the top of the shoulder as well as the muscle underneath. Oh, you have to experiment and see what's right for you. Make sure your head and neck are doing all right. And we'll breathe in. Sometimes the hips forward is a little better, sometimes hips backwards is a little better, so you can experiment with that. And last breath here. Okay, so we're gonna come out of there. We're gonna take that arm that we just had underneath us, give that a little shake out, then stick it straight out, and then the opposite leg. So take a little spinal balance here. Now drop up through the sides of your waist a little, hug in. Keep breathing. Last breath. Excellent. So we're gonna take this left leg now, because that's my left leg. Whatever one is your leg that's behind you, bring that forward, and then we're in a little bit of a lunge here. So I'm gonna ease my hip forward, and then ease my hip back. Give the hamstrings a little bit of love. Forward, love on my hip flexors and the quads. Backward, hello hamstrings. And one more time, forward. All right, so I'm gonna come back to that all fours position and do the opposite shoulder. So I'm going to take my left arm underneath, whatever one is your opposite. And then you just experiment with how far the roll should go. And how you ease yourself in, kind of push against the floor if that feels all right. Adjust the hips until it feels okay for your low back. Last breath. And then we're going to come out of there. And again, that arm is going to be the one that goes out straight, and the leg goes out behind me on the opposite side. And then we hug in through the side waist and hold that spinal balance nice and long. more big breath. Beautiful. Bring that right leg or whatever one is yours forward. And we're gonna find this little lungy shape. And then back off with the lunge. Make it a hamstring stretch. And a little lunge. And a little hamstring stretch. And a little lunge. And a little hamstrings. Now we're gonna step back into down dog. I'm gonna secure my hair a little bit more before we do that. But if you need to substitute down dog, like down dog is like being upside down is not appropriate for you, you could instead go from here right to standing at the top of your mat. And then you can do some half forward bends where you keep your head the same level as your hips and kind of experiment with those kinds of stretches, okay? You can always substitute something out. Okie dokie. If down dog's your jam, put your hands about shoulder distance apart. Give yourself enough room that you feel like you have a long ski slope from your hips to your wrists. So if your wrist is more like a 90-degree angle, that's going to be hard on your wrists. See if you can give yourself some room. You can bend your knees quite a bit. And then you can move your shoulders around. This is my first downward dog today, so it's feeling nice to play with it. A little hip movement. One heel up, one heel down. Shake up the neck. Oh. All right, yogis, when you're done with your down dog, you just kind of walk yourself together. Come up halfway. Exhale and fold. Okay, now if you can fold all the way, fold all the way. If not, stay with the halfway. And just bend your knees a little bit. Straight legs, come up halfway. Exhale, fold. Or just kind of shifted back and forth a little bit between straight and bent. And then we're going to come all the way to standing. Give yourself a big stretch. Oh. 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 All right. We're going to take ourselves to a mountain pose. Oh, yogis. So find yourself in a reasonable position. You shouldn't feel like you're a soldier. It's not that kind of pose. And then just notice, like, if you're sticking your rib cage out, just bring it in a little. Line everything up. I don't like really stiff arm turnout, but if you like it, you can do it. For me, just relaxing the shoulders is better. I put enough tension there. But I like to be present for this pose for a moment. Feel it. Notice what your body feels like standing up right this minute. All right, so we're gonna take a nice big breath, reach the arms up overhead. Give yourself a little stretch over to one side, so whichever side is good. And then stretch over the other way. Take a big breath. We're gonna pick the left leg up and bring it up as high as you can lift your knee. And then we're just gonna try to pause there and hold steady in the balance. Take one more breath. And then we're gonna step this back and try to catch a high lunge. Now, if it takes 2 or 3 steps to get that, that's fine. So a high lunge means my hips are pointing forward, my heel is off the ground, right? And so I have everything kind of orienting itself towards the front top edge of the mat, however you want to look at it. If you've got a mat like mine, there are no top edges, but whatever direction you pick to face in. So everything's going that way, eyeballs, hip points, everything, okay? So we're gonna pause here for a second, straighten out both legs, and then I'm gonna press back through this heel as I bend my front knee, okay? So straighten out both legs, and then bend that front knee and press back through your heel. So for me, there's a stretch there, so that's what I'm looking for. If there's not, you can try making your stance a little wider. Beautiful. Now we're gonna take the hands to the ground, and we're gonna add a little twist here. So I'm gonna put a block into my world, and we're gonna twist towards the front legs. This is my right leg. So I'm twisting this way. Now there's a tendency to drop the hip. Try to keep your hip lifting. Press back through that left heel, and then just rotate as far around as your torso lets you rotate. My hips will try to help. I'm gonna try to resist so that I get the twist in my back. Take one more big breath. Sometimes you can let your hips help. I like to try to get my back to do more of the work. Okay, step back to down dog. Now, if down dog's not your jam, just stay at the front of the mat, or you can come down to hands and knees. Shake out your head, feel the dog. Is there a difference on the right side, left side? And then if you want to throw in the vinyasa, come forward into plank. Vinyasa just means a sequence of poses. Lower down, come into a back bend, come back to down dog. And this is a sequence from the sun salutations. And so it's a common vinyasa, and often I'll use the term vinyasa as shorthand, okay? So we're gonna take that left leg up, reach it up, sink into your right heel a little bit, and then step that left foot forward as far as it goes in one step. Meet it with your right foot. Come up halfway. Exhale, fold. Come all the way to standing. Give yourself a stretch. Oh. Oh. Find your mountain pose. And again, pause for a moment. Got hair in my mouth. It's probably fur. and notice what's happening. Okay. So my right side and my left side feels slightly different now. And maybe yours do too. So I'm going to put weight in my left leg. I'm going to bring my right knee up as high as I can. Hold that balance. It might fall apart, no worries. One more step back with your exhale. See if you can find that high lunge shape. It's going to work for your hip that still leaves you upright. Okay? You can put your hands on your hips. You can put your hands overhead. We're going to straighten out both legs and then bend the front knee and push back through the heel on the back leg. Give you a little bit more room on this side. Okay. Straighten out both legs. Bend the front knee, press back through the heel. One more time, come on up. Straighter legs, and then we're going to feel that stretch through that heel. I'm going to take my hand to the block. Again, you can do this just hand on the ground. You've got long enough arms. Reach out, and then twist. And again, notice the tendency of that head to help you, and see if you can just allow your body to twist. Wherever it goes is where it goes. We all have different ranges of motion. But see if you can make your back do the work. 2 more breaths. Last one. We're going to put both hands on the floor and either step back into an all fours position or step back to down dog. Pause and feel. And then add your vinyasa if you want it. And sequence. Close to this beanbag chair. I'm not sure if I'm going to hit it or not. Alright, we're going to take it back. So the right leg is going to come up. I'm going to kind of hook that over and sink into my left heel. And then step the right foot forward, wherever it goes. And then the left foot. Come up halfway. Exhale, fold. And come all the way to standing. Nice big stretch. And find your mountain pose. And now, is there a difference? And for me, it's subtle, but I just feel a little more energized. My body feels a little more alive. There's a kind of pleasant warmth, a kind of pleasant effervescence to the tissue. Feels good. All right, so we're gonna sit ourselves down, kind of like we're going into a chair, and then we're gonna take this top leg and put it so that the ankle or the shin is up on top of your thigh. If that doesn't work, you can cross the shin instead, okay? So either up on the thigh or on your shin, and then you can put your hands together, put your arms up, put your arms back. Oh, that one's kind of cool today. Do that one. I'm not gonna pull my shoulders down. So we're gonna hold steady as best we can. I keep my eyes really steady on one little point, that helps. Take one more breath. then we're gonna step back into warrior two. Okay, now warrior two, the hips are in a different orientation. I'm kind of pointing them more out to the side. What I don't want to do is try to square them to the side because that brings this thigh around just wherever they land. So this knee still points forward. This leg is adjusted so the hip is happy. Come on back to reverse. Take it into triangle. Come back, bend this knee, come back to reverse warrior. Straighten this knee, take it into triangle. Don't get too married to it, we're gonna do it one more time. Coming on back, all right, still dating. Now you can get married. Come into triangle. You can use a block, you can use your shin. You can float your hand. I'm gonna do a bind because I've been liking that last couple of days. So my shoulder gets a little extra love. And breathe, yogis. One more. Now, if you have a little more time, you want to throw in a vinyasa, you can do that. But what we're going to do as a team is step back to mountain. Because we don't have that much time. And I want to do a couple things on the floor. Oh, my right side feels really cool. This arm feels longer. It's very weird. All right, here we go. So we're going to sink down into the chair. Right leg is going to come up on top. I'm going to get myself steady eventually. And then find that spot where you're going to keep your eyes nice and softly focused. Okay, you ready? Take one more breath. You're gonna pick that leg up and step back into warrior two. Make your adjustments till it feels like that's the right spot for me. And then come back to reverse. And into triangle, and again, we're just gonna take a few moments, come back and forth. Reverse warrior. And into triangle. And one more time. Reverse warrior. Into a triangle. Choose in the options for yourself. One more. Good. So we're going to unwind. Take this whole thing back to down dog for a brief moment. You can throw in a vinyasa if you want one. And then we're going to come to a seated position on the mat. We're going to take the legs out in a V shape. And this is just a starting point so we can kind of establish what do we need. So if it feels like your pelvis drops backwards, grab a blanket or something like that and fold it up, and then you're going to sit on it so that your sit bones are right on the edge. So not your bum back on the blanket, but right on the very edge of the blanket, and that will help tilt your pelvis forward. It feels like the backs of your knees are a little vulnerable here. Take your blanket, roll it up, put that under your knees. You can also do this for a little bit of tight hamstring. Your pelvis is still mostly upright, but you can feel a lot of stretch in the hamstrings. You can do this. Okay. So we're gonna go one side, other side, down the middle. Okay, I'm gonna go to the right first. So I turned a little to my left, then I'm gonna side bend to the right. Now, if my elbow rests on my thigh pretty easily, you could also grab your big toe or put your elbow on the floor. So I'm just gonna go with this kind of slightly to the inner thigh position because it feels nice. And then now that I'm here, I can just play with that stretch a little bit, a little less, a little more, a little up, a little down. And if you find a sweet spot, stay with that. And breathe. One more. And come all the way up. Just pause. You can lean back, you can jiggle out your legs. I don't like to go for the biggest possible V I can get. I like it to be a little more conservative. If you went for a really wide V and now you're starting to regret it, you can bring your legs closer together, and vice versa. Maybe you didn't go very big and you want to go big, or go home. Maybe you are home. Okay, now I'm just making myself entertained. Anyway, we're gonna take it the other way. I always like to give it about 30 seconds between doing side bends or twists on each side. Okay, so coming into a nice side bend here. I'm not finding a sweet spot on this side, but I'm enjoying this ride of going between spots. One more big breath. All right, come all the way up. Oh, okay, so again, you can jiggle things, move around. Then we're going straight down the center. So we're gonna find our way in here. Fold in. Now, not everybody folds forward like this, so if you're one of the people who doesn't fold forward like this, what you can do is just, one, do your best. Two, you're gonna be sitting up tall, right? So you can instead just kind of grab the backs of the thighs and rotate a little bit so that it feels like you're trying to rotate the thighs into the center. And sometimes that can be interesting. It'll kind of broaden you out here. The other possibility is that you just sit upright because that's what your body is resisting. So your pelvis may or may not move forward. It's fairly significant portion of the population that cannot move their pelvis forward in this pose because of bone structure. So we're gonna take one more big breath. Some people can put their face on the ground. A lot of us in the middle. All right, so we're coming all the way up. We're gonna unwind this whole thing. We're gonna give everything a little shimmy. Now we're gonna do one thing laying down, and that's a little twist on either side, and that'll take place of Shavasana, because we might have to go get some things done. So let's do a nice little laying down pose to kind of help us relax. So knees in when you get onto your back. You can decide, am I going to the left first? Am I going to the right first? I'm going to the left first today. So you decide. So you can wrap the legs one around the other. You can leave them loose. You can put a pillow in the middle and then reach out. So I'm hoping we're gonna get a little chest stretch here and a little stretch on this outer hip. So I'm gonna actively take my hips this way and my shoulder that way, right? So I'm going to the left with my hips, to the right with my shoulders. And the obliques are the muscles that help us do this. Help us hold steady. So if I were doing any pose where I wanted to stand up in a twist, the obliques are my friends. So here we get to know them without gravity getting in our way. Without gravity working against us. Just one more big breath on this side. Okay, coming back to the center, top leg, bottom leg, and I like to stop in the middle again, about 30 seconds. Just let the spine adapt. It gives me a chance to kind of rinse out the little areas where I was stretching. Now my right leg arm feels longer than my left arm. That feels kind of cool. Okie dokie, so we're gonna do this one more time. We're gonna take the legs over the other way. Again, you might wrap them around each other, stack them up. Find a stretch that doesn't feel crummy in the shoulder, but gives you a little bit of chest muscle, a little bit of outer hip. And then I'm gonna actively use the obliques to spin my shoulders down toward the left and my hip towards the right. Now, for you, it depends on which way you went, okay, and which twist you did first. Just trying to get that, it's like squeezing a little bit, a little extra twist. But really what we're doing is we're relying on the muscle instead of just gravity. Nice deep breaths. it back. Top leg, bottom leg. Oh, everything. Everything comes back to the center. Now, give yourself a little bit of movement. So we're gonna, this is a little silly, but we're gonna try it. You're gonna stick your arms up into the air. You're gonna give them a shake. Shake them until everything feels like it's rattling. All the bones are rattling and the flesh is jiggly. Okay, and let the arms drop. And this is the harder part. We're gonna try to do it with the legs. So we're gonna shake the legs. Trying to let the bones be jittery in the feet and toes. Can we get flippy floppy? Okay, then drop your legs and stretch everything out on the floor for a moment. And again, this is like mountain pose, but we're laying down. So we're coming back to mountain pose. And just feel your body. Notice. So if you've got more time, you can just stay here for a few minutes. But if you've got lunch to go get and things to get on your day with, you're going to gather yourself, give yourself a little back massage, roll over to your side. Come on up. Thank you so much for joining me for Lunchtime Vinyasa. Vinyasa in the larger scope of things, meaning practice where the poses link together. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let's take a big breath. Big deep sigh. Namaste, yogi.